Hello, Josh Johnson here. We are talking weather on this Friday night. So, storms are on the way to the state on Sunday. That's going to be what really we discuss most in this YouTube live update. This is a special update, YouTube only. So, for those of you who are normally watching these on Facebook, I welcome you to YouTube. Thanks for much following us over. If you could just subscribe while you're here, there's also a little bell type icon on YouTube. Tap that, and you'll get a notification anytime I go live, which could help out in the event of some bad weather. Okay, so we'll begin with a look in here. Let's dive right into the local mapping here. This is NOAA's experimental model called Rufus, RRFS. And we'll sort of skip ahead down here to the time frame in question. We've got a new run in, the 0Z run in tonight will get us out pretty close to the heart of this whole thing. So scattered showers around. This is Saturday evening. You see 7, 8, 9 o'clock. There's some hit or miss pockets of mainly light rain. It's extremely light and inconsequential. It's not a problem, right? But it will be out there. So one or two pockets of light rain Saturday evening. If you have Valentine's plans, just know it will not rain hard, it will not rain long, and it will not rain on many of you, but there will be a few pockets of light rain out of the mix there. Okay, so then we get to Sunday, and here comes this line of thunderstorms out of Mississippi. Now, let me switch over to this other mapping. It'll give us a little better look in at this. So, line of storms, this is valid at 3 o'clock on Sunday morning, and it runs from around Philadelphia, Mississippi to Newton, Mississippi, to just east of Hattiesburg, and then back down towards Biloxi. Scattered cells popping ahead of it, but at this point, the environment over Alabama, watch this. This is the forecast sounding for that time frame out there. It's 62 degrees. The wind, there's a ton of wind shear, but the thermal profile here, the temperatures really just don't really support persistent, intense updrafts. Translation, tornado threat with this is really, really minor. It's not zero, but it's darn close to it. We'll cycle you through here. This is now 4 in the morning, a few individual cells, and then the line. Now in Alabama, we'll say by 4 o'clock in the morning, this is affecting Gainesville, Cuba, Butler, not Butler County, but the town of Butler over in Choctaw County, and then down into Washington and Mobile counties. Strong straight line wind would be the main concern here. An hour later, now 5 o'clock in the morning, this is running from around Greensboro to Demopolis to Grove Hill, leading edge of it, right? There's still some cells popping out ahead of the line, but again, same sort of thing here. We can sort of do a little x-ray of the atmosphere on the model here, 61 with a dew point of 59. Look, the wind fields are insanely supportive of severe weather. If this is an event where if the temperature was 78 and the dew point was 74, we'd have us a tornado outbreak on our hands. But that's not the case, right? A major limiting factor will be the lack of warm, muggy air near the ground in this sort of setup. So back to the maps we'll go. By 6 o'clock in the morning, this is now in Selma, Marion, Camden, it's basically through you, Evergreen, then back down towards Atmore, Bruton, and Escambia counties. Again, by around 6 in the morning, that's that line of storms. Out ahead of the line, a few cells will pop. But again, remember, at this point in time, again, at 6 o'clock in the morning here, you're really not seeing a lot of warm, muggy air near the ground. Watch, I'll flip over to the temperature mapping on this. You're in the upper 50s and low 60s, almost area-wide. The exception to that will be, we'll have to watch way down here in southwest Alabama. There's some indication in the modeling here. See that little almost triangle shape of orange there? That would be the idea. There is a little tongue of warmer air kind of getting up into this. So that would be supportive potentially of some storms along the Florida border. So I'm talking Mobile, Baldwin, Escambia, maybe southern Covington. Okay, so let's go back to the future radar here, if you want to call it that. So by 7 in the morning, this is now through Clanton, Prattville, Millbrook, Wetumpka, Montgomery, Greenville, Highland Home, Andalusia, and Laverne around 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. The main concern here would be strong straight line wind gusts due to the lack of wind due to the lack of instability in the lowest levels of the atmosphere. The tornado threat, while not zero, is very, 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 very close to it. It's almost zero, especially up here in central Alabama. We would need to watch that southern end of the line down here. We'll look at the forecast sounding down in southern Covington. This would be, again, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., 62, the dew point 61. Wind fields are extremely supportive of tornadoes, but there's just no instability down here. And if you look really carefully right there, see how the red and the green line bend back up and to the right a little? That is important. That is suggestive of a real lack of instability. That's telling me that the air is not cooling rapidly as you go up, right? So these storms may actually be elevated over a layer of cool, stable air near the surface. When you see a sounding that looks like this, that's a little bit of a temperature inversion where the temperature is actually staying the same or even warming a little as you go up in the sky. On a storm day, what you look for there would be these red and these green lines slanted over into the left, right? Up and to the left. You don't see that in the low levels down here. It's not that, right? So that's something we'll kind of eyeball, but we just don't see a major. I don't think there's much potential for that part of this to change. Just because there's just not a lot of warm air available. The other issue here is, remember the big Arctic blast a few weeks ago? That dropped the sea surface temperatures in the northeastern and the eastern Gulf down quite a few degrees. Water takes a long time to warm up. A few warm days doesn't do it. So there's cooler water down there that will also help us out here. Okay, so by 8 in the morning, line of storms now: Alex City, Dadeville, Jackson's Gap, Tallahassee, Tuskegee, Auburn, Opelika, Union Springs, Troy, Brundage, Opp, Florala. Notice how this is really, at this point, if you live north of about Highway 84, this is quite frankly just some rain and some thunder and a little breeze, right? This is a nothing burger for you. In far south Alabama, and frankly, I think more the Florida Panhandle, I think there the threat level is slightly more robust. But they still suffer from the same problem. Again, you see that right there, the red line and the green line. Notice how those, when they go up, particularly the red line, they bend to the right a little right there. This is the temperature trace in the lowest, few thousand feet of the atmosphere. And what you would typically, if you were looking for severe weather, you would look for that red and that green line going up, meeting, and then separating, showing you some dry air aloft. We have a little up there, but not much. It's pretty saturated sounding in the low levels of the atmosphere. Then the other thing we would be looking for here would be that red line. You would really want to see it go more to the left as you leave the ground and go up in the sky. It doesn't. It goes to the right. That's showing you that there is a layer, a kind of skinny layer of relatively cool, stable air near the ground. And again, that's in southern Covington. That's as far south as we really cover. If you go up here and look at the forecast sounding up into Macon County, it's even more of the same thing, right? It's 56 degrees. The dew point's 55. There's just no juice in the air. It's not warm enough to really crank up these storms. And at no point does the red line really take off to the left over here. You do not see any significant cooling with height. This is a saturated sounding, which doesn't really open itself up for damaging wind kind of downburst processes. I think really if you're north of a line from Monroeville to Dothan, this is just rain and a little wind and some claps of thunder, right? If you live south of there is a non-zero risk of a damaging wind gust and or a brief tornado, but gosh, it is really, 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 really low for all of Alabama. My suspicion is if we have tornadoes out of this setup, it would be right along the immediate Gulf Coast. I'm talking southern Mobile, southern Baldwin, south of I-10, essentially, which is the blue line on this map that you see here. Okay, let's fast forward in time, talk timing on this. Now, 9 a.m., this is all Sunday. Remember, this is Sunday. Line of storms now runs from around Beauregard and Smith Station, Clio, coming close to Eufaula, Elba, Enterprise, Ozark, Geneva. And again, same sort of thing here. The forecast sounding out ahead of that line just isn't that supportive, right? It's just not 64. It's gotten a little warmer, right? But it's still just not a overly concerning look here. Saturated sounding below 700 millibars. It's just not a tornado look. The wind shear profile is almost perfect for tornadoes. The thermal profile, the temperature, what is the temperature and the dew point doing? This profile is weak for tornadoes, right? Extremely weak. So that's why I don't think there's a big tornado threat. It's because of the temperature profile. The wind shear is there. Goodness gracious. If this was 78 degrees or the dew point is 72, we'd have a high risk and a tornado kind of big deal problem day, but that's not the case. Okay, 10 o'clock Sunday, line of storms now goes from Eufaula to Dothan, Abbeville, Midland City, places like that, and then some stragglers back down into parts of southern Covington. But by that point, I think the severe weather risk would be over. Then it does the Wiregrass Waltz. That's where these storms, that's a nickname we came up with years ago, where they kind of just linger in the wiregrass. Notice, too, the upper level trough squeezes out some moisture. The air up here, though, would be colder aloft. So as that upper trough swings through, notice how that red line I was talking to you about, see how that swings to the left? So there you actually have a little bit of instability. You don't have any wind shear. See how these lines are all pointing the same direction? The directional wind shear in this profile is minimal, right? So a sounding like this would indicate some chance of some small hail. Not the kind that causes big damage or problems, but I don't want it to sneak up on you either. So underneath this cold core up here and ahead of it, I think some of these showers, even the showers, not even the storms, these showers could produce some gravel pea-sized hail, and I mean tiny. The bigger issue would be it rains on some of you, and rains hard briefly. These will be downpours Sunday afternoon into Sunday evening. And then finally, after sunset Sunday, all of this sweeps on out of here and life gets a lot better. By the time the sun comes up Monday morning, look at this, we're crystal clear. No more rain, no more storms, no more problems. So to recap from the top, Saturday looks good. A mix of clouds and sun, only a small rain chance. If you have outdoor plans Saturday, you don't need to worry. Even if it does rain, it won't last long. It's a nuisance, not an all-day thing. Sunday, a line of storms races from West Alabama to East Alabama during the morning. It'll arrive in the western counties before sunset and exit out of East Alabama around 10 a.m. The main concern would be damaging wind gust. I can't rule out a brief tornado south of a line from Monroeville to Opp to Dothan. Even there, the risk is exceptionally low, right? The main concern would be damaging wind even there. There's a little break, and then as the upper trough swings through Sunday afternoon and evening, there's some potential for some downpours and some tiny, and I mean like tiny, hailstones to fall out of those storms. If we get especially if the sun were to come out Sunday and you really jack those lapse rates up. Lapse rate means very warm at the ground, very cold right above the ground. Some potential for some tiny hail to fall from those. That would be, again, a novelty, not an impact, though. So that's the way we see it right now as of this hour. Now, the other thing I want to do here is take you on a little cruise into the long range, right? Interesting solutions abound in the long range. That is usually the way this thing goes. But so the latest run of the European computer model you see here, warm through next Wednesday, and then really warm Wednesday, Thursday, upper 70s, even some low 80s out at the end of the week. And then a big shot of cooler air out towards the end of next weekend. So I'm talking Sunday, February the 22nd. Really no big rain chance in the mix here. We'll watch for showers Friday, Saturday. But we don't see anything that jumps off from a severe weather setup, right? The ensemble approach, remember this is the operational run. Think of this as a solo singer. You're going to hear a lot of detail, but that detail may set you up to hear some mistakes. You may hear forgotten lyrics. You may hear a missed note or two. So we like to use an ensemble approach, which is this. This is a choir. We're taking a lot of versions of this model and averaging them together. The red line you see here is normal. So notice we are warmer than normal by a large margin through at least next Saturday. And then there is some indication here of a shot of some cooler air out towards February 22nd, 23rd, 24th. Highs back down to the 60s, lows back down to the 40s, near or below normal, right? Now I will point out to you the GFS solution, the ensembles are a little colder, right? Highs back down in the low 60s, lows back down in the low 40s. And the operational run of the GFS is noticeably cooler in this time frame. I'll pull that up for you here. Again, this is the operational run of the GFS. It would suggest a high temperature in the 40s perhaps next Monday. It is an outlier, right? Even its own ensembles don't agree with it. But I do think there is good support for the idea of a dip in temperatures around the 22nd, 23rd, 24th of February. And then in the much longer range, I think there's some window here where we could see a stretching out of the polar vortex and perhaps a more substantial cold invasion sometime in the first 10 days of March. Now, that's way out there, right? We're using sort of teleconnections and pattern recognition, and yes, some of the long-range modeling, but it's a blend, right, of all of these things. I do think there is some window for that, and I do think too the March is going to be an active weather month. I think there will be multiple deep troughs that dig into the United States. There will be some storm setups. There will be some cold setups. Could there be a winter weather setup in there? Yeah, there could be. Typically, the March ones, though, it's not an ice storm, it's not a huge snowstorm, 1993 notwithstanding. It's typically going to be that slushy snow where it's 33 degrees and the roads are just wet, right? But we'll see. No one knows right now. All we can do at this point for March is just suggest that it's going to be active. I think there are going to be multiple waves of interesting weather in March, both from a severe weather standpoint and a cold weather standpoint. I think we will deal with bouts of both at times into the month of March. So that's sort of the long range look at this. The other thing I want to show you before I go here, this is the Storm Prediction Center Day 2. I will note that they have upgraded to a level 2 slight risk out there into South Louisiana, Southeast Texas, Southwest Mississippi. I do think there is some window for them to do the same thing into coastal Alabama and the Florida border counties. So again, that line I drew earlier from about Dothan to Opp to Monroeville on over to about Hattiesburg, Mississippi, along and south of that line, I think there could be a level 2 risk. That's 2 out of 5. 5 is the worst risk. 1 is the minimal risk. I think this is really more a level 1 risk for most of the southern half of Alabama, with the exception being perhaps Mobile, Baldwin, Escambia, Covington, Geneva, Houston counties, where I think they could bump this up to a level 2 risk in some of those Florida border counties. So that's the Storm Prediction Center outlook. That's the Day 2. The Day 3 is right here. It is a larger marginal risk. That's a level 1 risk. It goes way up into kind of the northern half of the state. Almost, it goes all the way up to Birmingham, essentially. Almost. Actually, I think that goes up to Birmingham. We can turn on the cities and see in a second. Yeah, Birmingham's right on the fringe of it. I suspect they will have to kind of shave down the northern part of that. I think when you see the new update, my thought would be you'll see a level 1 risk that is essentially along about Highway 80, which that would be about Meridian to Demopolis to Montgomery to Phoenix City to Columbus. A level 1 risk south of there, and then a level 2 risk perhaps along the Gulf Coast, and then up into, again, Mobile, Baldwin, Escambia, Covington, maybe the Wiregrass counties. We'll get all those SPC updates. We'll get those in tonight, right? So I'll be able to kind of walk you through what we see when they make that choice, when they do that with those Storm Prediction Center outlooks there. So that's kind of what we're seeing right now with all of this, is a very kind of low-end risk of 1 or 2 pockets of damaging wind. I can't completely rule out a brief tornado getting in that mix in far south Alabama, essentially along the immediate coast. Elsewhere, I think this is a damaging wind setup, and even that's pretty minor, right? The probabilistic update on Day 3, what they do here, and let me bring this back in. On Day 3, they give you the probability of any type of severe weather within 25 miles of a point. So what does that mean? That means there's about a 1 in 20 chance of damaging wind, large hail, or a brief tornado. Now, once you get to the day 2 outlook, they break it up, right? They will give you a probabilistic outlook for tornadoes. This is that number for day. This is that for day 2, and 5% risk southeast Texas, south central Louisiana, southwest Mississippi. 2% tornado risk into much of Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Once we get the new day 2 outlook, which by the way, they issue a big discussion with all of this as well. We'll get the new one at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? And I'll post that tomorrow to Facebook and probably do a quick video tomorrow at some point going over that Storm Prediction Center update. I bet they'll have a level 2 down along the coast and a level 1 for almost all of you watching this. Bottom line, don't get terribly wound up on counties. Just understand the map-based discussions that I give you are going to offer you a lot more detail and a lot more context than just a color on a map or a number on a map, right? The hour-by-hour walkthrough, that's really where there's a lot more value in that. Now, let's do this real quick. We'll go back and look at the ongoing run of the GFS computer modeling. Won't that be a hoot? You just never know what the GFS is going to do. The GFS doesn't know what the GFS is going to do. I will say that, let me go on a little bit of a old man tirade here. People, I see a lot of meteorologists that act like the European never misses and the GFS never gets it right. I could bring up 10 examples from this winter where that really is not the case. Their models, sometimes they hit, sometimes they miss. Now, when all this blows through us, this is going to be a really tricky forecast for places like New York City. Here's why. Let me show you this. So this low pressure gets off the Carolina coast, and there is a $1 million question in how far north does moisture make it. The GFS suggests some possibility of moderate to heavy snow up into parts of New Jersey, Delaware, New York, right? But it's a really, really close call, and then dry air pushes it back out. So for your major coastal cities, right? New York City, Philly, Trenton, New Jersey, this is going to be an ultra close call. Those meteorologists up there, they're exactly where we have been with some of these winter weather forecasts, where if the modeling is off by 50 miles, it's going to mean the difference between a snowstorm and a few flurries. And the other thing is, this is all or nothing. Look, the way this thing bombs out. Look at that. You get a 988 surface load. That thing is a bomb, man. That's going crazy. There is going to be a band north of that of just incredible snow, probably thunder and lightning involved with that, but it's probably going to be offshore, right? So again, that's the GFS. Here is the Euro for that same time frame, and notice it's farther south. If you believe the European computer set of data, it hardly snows a flake in these major coastal cities. And this thing really doesn't bomb and go crazy until it gets a little further out to sea. In this instance, I actually think the Europeans probably handling that energy better. But again, this has nothing to do with Alabama. This is just kind of something fun to talk about since we're chilling on YouTube on a Friday night. You party animals. All right, as fun as it has been to chill with you on YouTube for 20 minutes, I am going to have to wind it down now. I've got WSFA 12 News coming up in about 2 minutes and 18 seconds. You can stream that live, by the way. Wherever you go to get your apps, just search WSFA, and there will always be a watch live button. It's even on our weather app. If you scroll to the bottom, there's a thing that says watch live. And if we are in a newscast or in severe weather coverage that we're broadcasting live over the air, it will be live on the app as well. So I would cordially invite you to come hang out with us on WSFA 12 News at 10. I've got Valerie right behind me here. Hey, Val. She's got to look at all of the day's big news stories. The man, the myth, the legend, Davis Baker on sports, and then I'll update you on the weather forecast as well. So if you want to be in tune with what's happening in the world today, check out WSFA 12 News at 10 coming up in just about 1 minute. All right, watch tomorrow the YouTube channel, watch Facebook as well. Follow me on both. And I'll have updates when we get the new SPC outlooks. I'll update you tomorrow morning when we have the new SPC outlooks and probably some 12Z model data. I'll kind of walk you through what it looks like for these Sunday storms. But moral of the story, you do not need to be worked up about this. This is a very, very low-end risk. You're going to see and hear crazy things on social media. The hype train will roll as it always does. But straight talk, real talk, this is a low-end risk, 1 or 2 pockets of strong wind. Can't rule out a tornado, but it sure is a long shot, and it would mainly be well south of Montgomery along the Florida border and into the Florida Panhandle. Even there, the risk is minor. So have a